What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny. Just sitting here relaxing. I just had finished dinner. And I want to comment on a video I saw yesterday. I saw it today, but I think it was put out yesterday by Jason Stapleton. It's a really good video, very illustrative of the world we live in and some of the views I hold. Not all the views, but some of his views I hold and how I see things kind of unfolding. Anyways, Jason Stapleton, if you don't know, he's kind of a libertarian-leaning guy. He was in the military, and he also worked as a contractor over in, I think it was Afghanistan and Iraq, but I might be wrong. And also, too, he used to have a podcast, kind of a libertarian podcast on how to change the world and make the world better through politics. It wasn't really about that, but he had a podcast kind of like that. He gave that up, and before he gave that up, I stopped watching because my views, you can't really change things much through politics. You can educate people all you want, and reason and logic doesn't change people's minds, in my view. Also, it's his view too. You can show people how the deficits are out of control, how printing money is out of control, and people on the left and people on the right will decide they're going to keep on doing it. They don't really care. So you can show people like a free market libertarian view, but you're really not going to change too many people's minds. And so he got into another podcast. This is more about marketing. He also has, he did have, and he still has a YouTube channel on trading. That's one thing I like him, because he's a trader. He comes from that kind of a background, although he didn't work on Wall Street as far as I know, but after he got out of the service, he then worked for the contractors. After he finished all that, he started trading. In fact, if I remember right, he started trading while he was a private contractor in, I think, Afghanistan, but I might be wrong. Could have been Iraq or both places. Anyhow, he made a video yesterday about how how we think about everything in the world right now is being manipulative, and it's not exactly the truth of what's really going on. And it kind of reminded me of Michael Malice's podcast with Justin Amash, where Justin Amash said, he was asked, what's the biggest takeaway Americans don't understand about politics? And he said the biggest one was people don't understand how both the Democrats and Republicans actually get along quite well. It's only theatrics when they're in Congress debating stuff or in their committees debating stuff, which I already knew. That's kind of been my view. But what I did not know, which I said in a previous video, is Justin Amash said everything's scripted, like in professional wrestling. He said they're given a script before they're on TV or on camera in a committee, what questions they can ask, what they cannot ask, what the response is going to be. And he basically said they all know. I mean, the Democrats and Republicans on both sides, they all know what the questions are going to be, how to answer the questions, and how to put on a show. And then after that, he said not all of them hang out, but many of them do, and they're not really enemies like people think. It's just all a big show. Well, Jason Stapleton was just pointing out a lot of what we think about COVID is not really true, which has been my view for quite a while now. There's been more and more studies out, and when this thing first came out, we were told there's going to be a 4 or 5% death rate. Now we're told it's 0.05, 0.02 to 0.05, depending on which country you're talking about. And not only that, we're told a lot of stuff about masks that's not really accurate. Now, depending on your view on that, I like wearing the mask because I like kind of having my disguise when I'm traveling. So you can have your disguise and use the ATM machines, and it's kind of nice. I don't know if people know this, but both the United States and in the UK, crime has gotten out of control because people are wearing the mask and they're robbing like banks and stores and they can't be identified. I mean, to me, I find that amusing that people don't realize part of what's going on there. But anyways, Jason was just talking about COVID. He was talking about, not the music awards. Yesterday, the day before, this last week, there was some movie awards. I forget what they're called. I think the Globes. And he was talking about how that's all manufactured, like nothing about that is based on talent. It's all based on who you know, how you present yourself, who you suck up to, and things like that. It's not based on who has the most talent, which probably most people realize. But he's just pointing out, this is like a lot of things. Almost everything we see now is kind of illusion, like we live in a matrix. And he was talking about the Golden Globe Awards, where all these actresses and actors are coming out with their scripted speeches to how racist all, basically white people are. But none of the judges or none of the people at that awards who control it, none of them are black. And they full well know that. But they'll still sit up there and do their spiel, which I thought was funny. Or interesting, at least. He did too. But he also commented on like Bitcoin and other things. One of his views of Bitcoin is it's going to go up long term. Short term, it may go down. And it may be made illegal. But if it is, it'll be like gold in the 1930s where you get compensated. I'm like him. I think that's a possibility. I don't know how likely that is. So if they make it illegal in one country, they'd have to make it legal all over the world. They'd have to coordinate that. And I don't know if they could do that. But my point is, it's a lot like his. As more and more wealthy people buy Bitcoin, it's very unlikely they're going to make it illegal. And he was just pointing out today or yesterday, a couple of days before, one of the big banks and some of the regulars been bad-mouthing Bitcoin. Then it got knocked down. And then a day before, a few days ago, they were saying how it's going to be the reserve currency. All the same people saying the same thing. So you can see how it's very much being manipulated. Knock it down, then the insiders buy, and then they come out in the media and say, oh yeah, it's going to be the world's reserve currency, which I doubt. He is like me. He doesn't think that's going to happen. Like, why would the government put themselves on a reserve currency like Bitcoin or gold when they can't really inflate it as easily as just paper money? It doesn't make any sense. He also pointed out there's a possibility, which I agree with, but I tend to think it's smaller, but he thinks that what will probably happen is governments will introduce their own digital currencies, which I think is likely, and then they'll make cash illegal. I don't know if they'll do that or not, but I only think that would happen in first world countries like the EU, the United States, and in third world and developing countries. It won't happen as fast. Anyways, he was just pointing out that once they do that, you'll have to get your government wallet. If you dissent or don't do the right things, you won't get your free money, you won't get your Social Security check, et cetera, et cetera. See, that's what I see happening. And then possibly we'll go to a cashless society, but then they can track everything. They can already track everything in real time, but with these digital wallets, it'll be faster and faster. And AI can track all this. You won't need human beings as much to track all this in real time. So I'll leave the link to this video in the description, but basically what it amounts to is, while everyone's bickering and complaining, the elites, the powerful, are slowly but surely controlling anyone through persuasion, through NLP, through lots of things like that, and then basically buying up all the assets of the world, printing money like mad, taking that printed money to buy up all the assets and things like that. It's a really fascinating episode, so I hope my viewers can check it out. It's basically a lot of my views. It's why I really think you can't really change the world by explaining reason and evidence to people, because people don't care. Just like in the dating world, where some men think they can persuade women by showing them reason and facts. Women respond to emotion more than anything else. So I'm just surprised that there are still people out there who think if you show people the truth, they will somehow vote for sound people. It doesn't seem very likely to me. And that's also why I tend to have the lifestyle I have, why I don't live as much in the U.S. Even Jason Stapleton, if you watch his recent shows, has been hinting at for a long time now about having a residency in South America. I think he's already got one in Paraguay. I can't prove it, but he's never said that, but he talks about Paraguay a little bit too much. So I see him doing what a lot of elites do. As things get worse and worse in the States, they just fly out, parachute into their legal residency, and continue their business empires from South America, Europe, wherever they choose to go. But a lot of these people are going to, like-minded people, go to like Latin America, Central South America, possibly Asia, parts of Africa, things like that. That's why it kind of makes me sad thinking about all these people. They're fighting over COVID. The Democrats and Republicans are fighting over what the truth is, when people don't realize a lot of times the truth is just manufactured. I many times can't seem to convince some of my viewers, not all, but some of my viewers, that's what's really happening. Just like right now, I've been talking about for months now how first world countries, but the EU, the United States, Canada, they're really putting a lot of pressure on, especially Latin American countries, to make it harder to legally get a residency, to legally set up a bank account, to do anything legally down here and get out of the tax net up there. That's what they're basically doing. And I'll sometimes get comments of people telling me, prove it like with a link. I can't prove it with a link. It's just you can see it when you're down here. People get their accounts opened. It's very difficult, and then they get them closed 2 months later. So that's what I'm trying to get across, that slowly the net's being tightened around people. And what you're seeing in the U.S., a lot of the protests, like the Trump protests, the Democrats protesting, the Black Lives Matter, all that, it's all a Punch and Judy show. Things are really falling apart. I haven't even talked about the homeless. I'm going to make a video on the homeless because that's another big trend that I see, or it's already in play, that kind of suggests where this is all going. Anyhow, I'll leave the link in the description for the Jason Stapleton episode that I think is very fascinating. And my comments are just basically that we live in this matrix where most people have no idea what the truth is. They make life and death decisions, from financial decisions to personal health decisions, based on information that's not even really accurate. And you can go to like he pointed out, you can go to the CDC website. You can go to a lot of these websites that are government approved and see for yourself what they're really saying. But the media says very much the opposite of what these government websites say. So in a way, government's hiding in plain sight the real truth of this matter. That's what I find fascinating when it comes to Bitcoin, COVID, the slow bankruptcy of the United States and the EU. It's like the truth is out there, but most people just don't want to do the homework. And most people don't seem to trust their judgment anymore. They don't trust their judgment to think or make decisions. So they just go with the thought leaders, the YouTube influencers, Facebook influencers. That's what they're doing nowadays. And that's where I think a lot of people are making mistakes. They're not thinking for themselves anymore. It's going to lead to a big crisis. I can't predict who's going to come out of it well and who isn't. I just tend to think countries in the Americas will come out better, and countries in the old world like Europe just won't. They won't come out of this economic crisis that I believe we're going into very, very well. Anyways, like, share, leave a comment in the description. Thank you. Anyways, there's kind of a new pictures of some of the places this is where I'm residing right now. Pretty nice here. As you can see in the background, there's some bamboo.